Welcome back to Pen and Reel, where today we're going to be talking about Future State Swamp Thing by Ram V. Now, I've long been a fan of Swamp Thing. I feel like this is one of the characters and concepts that DC has that has the most potential for growth and for shaping the entire world around him. I love the developments that Alan Moore brought to the character, and just the immense growth of the DC universe as a result. And then I thought it was brilliant the way that Scott Snyder expanded upon the character in the New 52, and how they connected Animal Man with the Red and the Rot, and then later on with Charles Soule bringing in the fungus element of it. I just feel like there's so much rich mythology that can be built upon there, and especially if you have more of a scientific knowledge of plant life, just the different ways that can be developed and expanded upon. And one of the ideas that I have long wanted to play with if I were to write for DC is a potential post-apocalyptic world where the green takes over the earth. There are so many ways that could be done really well that would turn the idea of a post-apocalyptic world on its head, no longer being this desolate wasteland, but turning it instead into this vibrant, rich world that is overgrown with greenery, but at the same time still wipes out a lot of human life and technology, and potentially even overwhelming the Red and overwhelming animal life. And so diving into this Future State book, I was really appreciative to see how Ram V was playing with that same post-apocalypse concept. Now, it's not quite in the way that I would have done it, but I find that more interesting, that it's not going down the exact path that I would do. One of the things that Ram V has done here that makes it so interesting to me is he had Swamp Thing build his own race. Basically, these sub-Swamp Things that are kind of mimicry of humanity, but as alternate Swamp Things. So he has created a community for him to interact with and to develop relationships with that are essentially his children, but at the same time are given distinct personalities, and they are an entirely new race. And this is something that I hadn't considered, but now reading it, it sparks all kinds of new ideas for me on how this could be expanded upon. And that, for me, is always one of the marks of a great book, whether it be a prose book or a novel, or even if going into movies and TV shows. If it starts sparking ideas for me, I am going to hold it in high regard. Regardless of how good it actually is, the fact that it is inspiring me to want to create something, that alone makes it good for me. But fortunately, this book doesn't just spark good ideas. It's well written, it's well illustrated, and it's a very engaging read. If you're a fan of Swamp Thing at all, I would say definitely check this out. And personally, the only real downside about this book is the fact that I think it's only going to be 2 issues for Future State. Now, on the plus side, Ram V is going to be writing a new Swamp Thing book that comes out of Future State. So we are going to get more of Ram V developing Swamp Thing and developing the world around him. It's just not necessarily going to be in the same post-apocalyptic setting. But it could be building to a similar idea. And one of the things that's interesting about the Omniverse going forward out of Dark Knight's Death Metal is we're not entirely sure if all of the books are going to be still in the same singular universe that DC has been up until this point. So it's entirely possible that the Swamp Thing book is going to be on a different Earth and can be developing towards this post-apocalyptic world. And honestly, as much as I enjoy having the different books cross over and take place in the same world and build the same universe, I do want to see Ram V take Swamp Thing and push him off in his own direction. That's one of the strengths of the multiverse concept that I feel has been underutilized for decades. The fact that we can develop entirely different worlds and tell compelling stories with these characters, but then still have them cross over with one another via multiversal travel or whatever. Because with what Ram V has done here, I would definitely be interested in seeing how he deals with Swamp Thing within the DCU, but I would be far more interested in seeing how he builds to this post-apocalyptic world. And then even beyond building to it, I want to see him play in that world more and explore it more. And then we can still have books like Justice League Dark, which would incorporate Swamp Thing and still utilize him within the main DCU. So it's not like it's separate worlds per se. It's just separate worlds for separate stories. I would like to see the DC Universe take kind of a similar approach to what Future State is doing, in that they have chunks of books that are exploring certain ideas, and then other books that are just going off and doing their own thing. And that seems to be kind of the mandate for DC going forward, but we haven't had that clearly delineated within the books themselves. So I can't say yet that that is definitely going to be the case, but I am hopeful that at least for some books, such as Swamp Thing, that will be the case. So yeah, I would say if you're a fan of the Swamp Thing, especially the Alan Moore run, and to a lesser extent the Scott Snyder run, definitely check this book out. It's definitely worth it. It's got some very interesting ideas that I'm very curious to see how they play out in the future. I'm definitely looking forward to issue 2, and I'm looking forward to the main series by Ram V. So with this being my first Future State book, I have to say I very much enjoyed it. I'm a bit skeptical of some of the other books, but I am very curious, and I do appreciate the concept of how these books are not directly tied to continuity, but at the same time have hints of what's to come. And I think it's a great way for DC to explore a bunch of new ideas without necessarily being entirely committed to them. So yeah, after reading this, I'm definitely going to check out at least 1 or 2 more Future State books. I can't really afford to dive into all of it, but I'm at the very least going to do Immortal Wonder Woman next, and debating on 1 or 2 others that I might check out. But yeah, if you hit subscribe, I'll be coming back soon with my Immortal Wonder Woman thoughts. And if you read this issue, let me know down in the comments what you thought. And until next time, this is Uncle Joel saying, stay tangible.